Welcome to Growing Leaders. We're delighted that you've purchased this pack and want to use it to help to grow leaders in your local church. My name's Simon Heathfield and I'm part of the team that's helped put together this pack and resource so that you can use it.
And my name's James Lawrence and I, along with Simon and others, have been a part of the process as well. And we're thrilled that you've picked up this resource to help grow leadership in the local church. Simon, tell us a little bit about what the resource is.
Well, the resource, which you'll see with the box that you've got, is quite comprehensive. It's flexible because it can cover a whole year or more. But the aim of it, through a whole range of different activities and engagements with people, is to help you grow leaders and leadership in the local church, so that ultimately the local church can be more effective in the mission that God calls it to do, to help men and women, young people and old people, people from all sorts of circumstances and backgrounds, come to know Jesus Christ and to grow in knowledge of him. There are lots of reasons why we've put Growing Leaders together, so James, I wonder whether you could tell us one or two of the reasons why the resource is available.
Yeah, a lot of the churches we visit make comments along these lines. James, we simply don't have enough leaders. Where can we find leaders? So our response to that has been to work hard over the last few years on how do you grow leaders in a local church. A second reason is this, that we live in a changing world and in a changing church. We all know the reality of the fact that here in the UK, the vast majority of people of any age do not attend churches, are not part of the Christian faith. And in this changing world and in this changing church, research has shown us that leadership is one of the crucial factors in growing healthy churches. That's why we've given the course the strapline, Growing Leaders for Growing Churches. And a third reason why we've put this resource together is that research has identified that it's not just leadership in terms of the overall leader, the minister or pastor, but leadership at every level in the local church which makes a difference. So this resource is designed to grow leaders for our Sunday schools, for our children's and youth work, for those who are leading small groups or cell groups, for those who are responsible on our vestry or PCC or eldership team. Leadership at every level makes a difference in the life of the local church. And of course, through the life of the local church, we want to make a difference in the countries that we come from. So Simon, Growing Leaders is built around a process. Tell us a little bit about the process which is at the heart of it.
Well, like most courses, Growing Leaders has a core element, which is meeting together once a month in this case, or you could vary that slightly if that doesn't fit your church context. But meeting together to learn through teaching and training and discussion and group activity and prayer and worship and all sorts of other creative ways to engage with a series of themes about leadership that you can see in the course outline that you have in your notes. But in addition to that, we recognise that growing people in leadership takes time, because people are just that, they're people. And so what we've put together is a course that uses mentor relationships. It uses small groups and peer groups within the larger group. We offer people projects to do that are not academic exercises, but practical opportunities to explore the themes that have been identified so far. And all of this is centred on the Bible and God's Word, where we know that God has promised He will speak, and where the Spirit can work in people's lives to bring about change. The whole process is flexible, and it could be 12 months, it could be 18 months, but we recognise that as people are given time with God's Word and His Spirit, in hearing and encountering others, and in growing in leadership, then change will really happen. And if change happens in them as leaders over that process, then change happens in the church. And if change happens in the church, then the world is changed, which is our big picture intention for Growing Leaders.
And Simon, you were involved in piloting this in your local church. Can you tell us a story of somebody who came along to the Growing Leaders process in your church and the difference it's made in their life?
I've got two people in mind. One of them is a younger man who's involved as a young person in a management situation in the first company that he's ever worked for. And after one of the sessions, he came up to me and said, I have never thought about my 9-to-5 job being part of God's call on my life. And over the year, I didn't have many other conversations with him other than the working out of suddenly realising that what he was doing 9 to 5 was God's call. And it radically has begun to change how he leads in the management situation he's in as a young man, straight from college, in the first job that he's in. And that's really exciting to see someone.
And
the other two people
yeah.
I've got in mind, well, I suppose there are three really.
No, not too many.
Are two older men who came to me and said they're both in their mid-60s, they've had a lot of church experience, and they said, this is a great course, but who can mentor us? And I said, well, I'm not sure I can mentor you. So they went away to think and pray about it, and then they said, well, couldn't we mentor each other? And so through the year, they've been meeting together and sharpening each other up and helping each other to grow in leadership. And even though they've had loads of experience, they would come back now and say, actually, we've grown because of what we've done together through growing leaders. It's provided us an opportunity we wouldn't have had otherwise. Those have been really exciting. So it's always exciting to see and hear about people growing. But James, tell us something about the model that underlies this practical process that Growing Leaders offers.
We created a model to be at the heart of this Growing Leaders process, and it contains 5 elements that are in relationship with one another. At the centre is our relationship with God, our covenant relationship with God. And we know from working with leaders around the country how often and how easy it is for leaders who are committed to doing God's work to actually lose their relationship with God itself. And so right at the heart of Growing Leaders, we've taken time to explore where we are in our own relationship with God. And then foundational to the whole of the process of Growing Leaders are 2 things, call and character. You mentioned one just a moment ago. Call, because it's not simply about the big picture of where God is calling us in life, to be a worker in this context or in that context or whatever, but actually call in terms of how we use the minutes and hours of every day. And then secondly, character, because as we look at the Bible, we discover very quickly that, of course, character issues are what govern whether people are suitable for leadership or not. In the letters Paul writes to Timothy and Titus, in the lists he sends to them, they're nearly all character issues that he identifies. And so we want to grow Christian leaders in Christ-like character. And then once that foundation is in place, we can build on that to actually look at issues of competence, of skills in leadership, because there are certain things leaders need to do. And so we work in the Growing Leaders process on some of those skills. But all of that is in the context of community, because as we look at the New Testament, we see that leadership is hardly ever mentioned in the singular. It's always in the plural. And that's crucial to our understanding of leadership in Growing Leaders, that we lead in the context of others, not on our own, not as solo operators. So quite a bit of our time in the process of Growing Leaders is spent on looking at leadership as team, leadership with others.
And James, that exciting Jesus-centred biblical model that you've just described works out in the course by giving it 3 parts, doesn't it? Can you tell us just briefly something about each of those 3 parts?
Yeah, part 1, we look at this whole issue of foundations for Christian leadership, and that's really to do with our own relationship with God and God's call on our lives. Part 2 looks at some of the fundamentals of Christian leadership, and that's to do with some more of the skills-based stuff. How do you lead? How do you discern where God is leading, the whole vision stuff? How do you actually work with other people? How do you grow a team? And then part 3 looks at the whole sort of thing of faithfulness in Christian leadership, the ongoing work. Because we've discovered that lots of folk have unrealistic expectations about it being a Christian leader and therefore give up very, very quickly. And so we wanted to look at the cost of Christian leadership, the sacrifices that one needs to make in Christian leadership, how you can be faithful in the ongoing work of Christian leadership. So those are the 3 different parts of the process.
And we're really glad that it's not just the resource you have in your hands that can support you to make Growing Leaders a reality, but we've also been arranging some training events throughout the country and throughout the year, which you can engage in and become part of.
So what sort of things could people expect if they come to a training day?
If they came to one of our events on a Saturday, they would find out lots of new things and insights about Christian leadership, not just about the pack of Growing Leaders, but they'd also get some proper sample sessions and some material that would help them actually deliver the course really well, with insights from the pilot churches and those who've already led it.
And where do they find out about those training days? This is the ad bit.
The place to go is, as always, the website, www.cpas.org.uk, and follow the links to leadership.
And the other thing we want to recommend at this stage is the one thing to do when you've finished watching this video. And what is that one thing, Simon?
The one thing to do is to go and get the introductory guide from the box and start reading there, because that'll help you keep the big picture in mind before you get bogged down in the small picture of how you're going to deliver the first session.
We do hope Growing Leaders will be a helpful resource for you. And if we can be of any help, don't hesitate to contact us on the number or the email which is in the pack. Enjoy Growing Leaders.